This is the back page of the user guide. This is a short video to show how I laid it out. And what you have basically here is the primary medical professional guiding the patient care. Included in this line because I felt, as you'll see farther on in these videos, while every resource available to the patient is important, isn't necessarily the most educated, or the surgeon isn't necessarily primary, or the certified hand therapist at different times wasn't necessarily primary. In fact, the patient could be primary, or an occupational therapist could be primary. Initially, for the first 2 weeks, had almost no contact with the hospital other than maybe a call or two to make sure I was all right. So I listed that as staff because questions might be directed towards the medical assistant and not to the surgeon. So the top line, primary medical professional guiding the care. And then the benchmarks, while they may have a visual component, I tried to look for physical presentations where the nature of the care might have changed, and something that I could describe and identify. And then down here is time frame. Like my time frame was about 2 weeks till the cast came off. I haven't verified that, but I'm pretty sure it was about 2 weeks. Somebody with less structural damage might, active mobilization earlier. I'm sure, like hand transplants later. Seemed to me like this was about right for me. I'm sure it's a little bit different depending on the surgeon or the patient or the injury. And then level of difficulty. I did this line sloping up intentionally. As I stated on the previous slide, very aggressive in my approach. Because of that, I was manipulating my hand and causing discomfort. I don't feel like this is right. My approach would be right for everybody, or my approach would be necessarily right for a majority of patients, but it was my approach. And you kind of want to indicate to patients that it's going to be difficult, or I would like to indicate to patients that it's going to be difficult if you're trying to condition your hand absolutely as much as possible. But the level of difficulty did level off, and now it's not about a level of difficulty; it's about routine. And a further word on routine. I think it's important to look at this as if it's a kind of a routine building exercise. There was different routines, kind of in different benchmarks. With, let's say, the first benchmark, the routine being protection, really protecting the injury from damaging it. Whereas during this benchmark, it was more about mobilization of the structures, and then it kind of became, trying to put my hand in the best possible configuration to see what you got. Always being aware that This is an experience, it's an experiential type injury all the way throughout. There's a psychological component to all of this, and I will try to later on discuss my opinion as far as reinnervation and maybe some of the neuroplastic facets of this injury that a patient should probably be aware of, because as a level goes up, as you start to be real aggressive in your therapy, you are potentially stimulating some neuroplastic changes that have to be accounted for, dealt with. Down here, time frame, my time frame, from 2 weeks to 10 weeks. On the second one, is probably pretty fast. I wouldn't want a patient to think they're trying to match what I did if they had the same injury. And somebody with obviously less structural physical damage, the tendons, he's going to have a different set of considerations. I would presume somebody with a totally amputated hand who was doing it has a different set of considerations. They're all different. Time frames shouldn't be considered uniform in any way, shape, or form, so much as there just seem to be easily identifiable for me breaks in my therapy where it shifted very quickly from one phase to another, and I try to reflect those shifts in this guide. To flip it over, to look at the front, the name's not really important. That's the injury. Basically, long story short, I fell on a running circular saw while repairing a small garage roof. For researchers potentially interested in this aggressive approach, I did a 30-something page recounting of the whole experience. I'd be happy to forward it to an interested researcher. I'm not sure. I'm wanting it to just throw it out there for a patient, especially if a patient was a little bit desperate early on, to take bits and pieces and potentially in an ill-advised manner try to replicate some of it. This picture, if you see, there's the two little foam protectors. There was my thumb was basically pinned on. Those went down into my forearm. Those were removed, I don't know, at some point. I took a little chunk out that was put back here. This was the surgeon's work. I think that was the surgeon's work. This was the circular saw's work. That's really the injury. No sensation this side of this initially. There's a backside, there's some acknowledgments. Of all the people who helped me out. This is not a go it alone problem. This is certainly an all hands on deck problem. Picture down here is my godson, who his disappointment, I gave him some craft paper for his birthday, and we were cutting it, and I noticed the way he was holding the scissors was similar to the way I was holding the scissors, and the realization came to me that I was compensating with my position of my arm to cut, and because he was only a couple years old at the time, from watching him, I understood very quickly that that compensation, that my, even that simple act of cutting with a scissor had changed, and I needed to rethink what I considered success and failure, and understand the nature of compensation, and then try to turn it into a process. And really, he was instrumental, and I love him to death, so I put his picture on here. Very quickly, I'll start this video. Section 1 is color-coded. Here's your weeks. Section 2, 2 to 10. Section 3, 10 to 20. And then Section 4, really 21 weeks on. I'm almost 3 years into this. The healing process is still going on, albeit slowly. I will go through each one of these sections kind of in order, and at the end, it will post some ideas I had for a sensation assessment table, and if anyone's interested in them, well, welcome to have what I prepared for that. Again, I will start with this one, and this is really a poor table to do this on, but I will try it. As you can see here, this first one, medical staff. That's who because I had no contact with the surgeon or really anybody else other than, the morning after, a phone call from him and a greeting from his extern, or I try to break this down. Critical. These are the parts that I believe are critical to the experience. And these are things that are helpful. I just felt like in a perfect world, if I had had time to really think about what I'd like to have concentrated on when, I tried to put helpful down. And then here's like a benchmark. Obviously, initially you can't mobilize something when it's in a cast. So when I came home, hand was in a cast until about 2 weeks, at which time the cast was taken off. All right.